Hello and welcome to this next Mango Masterclass. In this particular session, we're going to be focusing on performance evaluation. And if we have a look at clause 9.1 or clause 9 in any of the ISO standards entitled performance evaluation, that gives us an opportunity to step back and look at the effectiveness of our management system. So we're going to take a deep dive into Mango. We're going to have a look at what the standards have to say, and we're going to see how utilizing software solutions, tools, AI, technology really enhances your ability to be able to track the performance of your system. Because if you think about it this way, you've done a significant investment in terms of developing your management system, and then one of my mentors, a gent by the name of Professor Johan Nel, taught me about the term to gestalt. Now, to gestalt means to step back, or one of its meanings means to step back and have a look at the management system as a whole, not just as its different parts. And this particular process in clause 9 of performance evaluation encourages us to step back and have a look at the different aspects of the management system, have a look at the management system as a whole to see how effective it is in managing your risks, environmental aspects, impacts, information security issues, etc. So without further ado, we're going to jump straight into the system, where we're going to have a look at Mango. So when you land in Mango, Mango is really focused around your performance evaluation and giving you a live real-time health understanding of the health of your system. And at the end of the day, if you've made a significant investment, this is where you want to be able to unpack that specific detail. So this is your landing page. When you land, it's going to customize itself per individual, and I can see exactly what is applicable to me. There's a placeholder for the different modules, and if there's something that I need to see as an individual user, this is going to tell me the health of that module when it comes to my particular responsibility. So that's the first area. From a performance evaluation perspective, I've got a live health time understanding of each module as it pertains to me. I can also then create a section which then builds up with all the different charts from the different modules that I have selected based on the issues that I want to have a look at. So whether it's environmental issues, health and safety issues, management of change, etc., I get to select from the different charts that are available in the different modules, and then I get to build the My Charts section to look at those things that I want to. There's an executive chart section. It does take a minute or so to populate because it does a deep dive into the back-end data within Mango and pulls it forward to represent it for the exec team. And it provides a high-level organizational overview of the health of your system. So I can look at, the total number of incidents and injuries and the various different injury frequency rates. I've got a high-level overview of accidents and improvements, and then to have a look at the trends. These are some of the key things that I have a look at within the system, particularly around events. That's where you've taken a system responsibility and you've allocated it to somebody. So if 21% of your events are overdue, that means you've got a significant issue within the system. That's a large chunk of people's responsibilities that are overdue. The next one that's nice from a performance evaluation perspective is the client summary. Now, what this allows me to do is have a look at the account. I can have a look at how many files and documents have been published. And here's a great part. So for any of the workflow modules, it gives me an ability to be able to have a look at that. So here, 143 events have been logged, 2 are pending and 51 are overdue. That's where I'm picking up an issue. I can see from my accidents, 68 have been logged, 4 are overdue. Assessments, etc. And here I get to do a deep dive into the different workflow modules to ascertain the health. And again, from a high-level exec overview, this is where I'd spend my time looking at the performance of my system. And again, just to parallel, the difference between a paper-based system, software, solutions, AI, all of this is going to represent the data live for the senior management team to have a look at exactly how the health of the management system is, and then to dive down. So let's say I wanted to go back to those events and I wanted to dive into the details. What is it? What are the specific issues? Where are those specific issues? Who are the specific people that I need to contact to find out why their events are due or overdue? So from there, I can take a deep dive into the system. So that's a collective overview. But then just to dive into each module has got its own report writer and its chart and its charting function. So if I dive into the charting function, let's say I wanted to have a look at all the accidents by body part, I can either have a look at that from an organizational level, or I can then create my own charts and just say this is related to body parts. I want to look at that. I want it to be a pie chart. And then next I can filter it. So let's say I just want it for a specific branch. You can sub-filter within date range as well. So next, and then it's going to pull the data through for me. So as much as you've got some pre-existing charts that are in there, you've then got the ability to create your own charts as well. Now, what I quickly want to do is jump into the report writer. Now, I'm just going to show you the charting function once, because the charting function is very similar amongst the different modules, obviously just pulling on the relevant data. And then we've got the reports module. So now here, I'm just going to call this test. This is all the information that is available within the workflow. So if I wanted to have a look at, let's say, period of employment in gender, I'm wanting to pull a specific report out, and the injured person is, and injured person occupation, and let's say the work shift, and or time or date of occurrence, treatment given. So let's say I want to pull a report out on that. I'm going to go next. I can still filter within there. So let's say I want to pull a report out on a specific gender, or the person is an employer, a customer, a visitor, a contractor. So let's say I wanted to pull a report out of on all contractors who were injured, let's say during the day, and the treatment given was first aid. So I can pull out a report. Now, if there is data in the system, it's then going to show it to me. Now, I can't see anything there, so I'm going to go back and filter and sort, and I'm going to kill these filters and just say, right, system, show me again. And yeah, if there's any data within the system, there we go. So there I can have a look at period of employment. And again, if I'm looking to provide trends, because that's what clause 9 is all about, is we're looking at what data needs to be gathered, how we can then analyze and evaluate that data to identify trends so that we can make continual improvement initiatives into the business. So that looks at the charting function and provides a high-level overview of the different performance evaluation functions that are then available within Mango. Now what I've done is I've created a presentation for you. In the first phase of this Mango Masterclass, we had a look at Mango, we had a look at the different modules and some of those performance indicators. Now I want to show you some of the reports that can be pulled out from Mango. So let's say I'm going into a management review and I want to present facts of how the system is performing to the senior management team. This is a presentation that we put together. So, just as a summary, integrated requirements for performance monitoring measuring are applicable to ISO 9, 14, 45, 27, 22, 22301, etc. Those are the requirements. Any of those management systems are going to focus on performance evaluation of the system. And there's a statement by Peter Drucker that I've always liked. It says, you can't manage what you don't measure. But there's something that I've added on to the end there. But the challenge within QHSE or SHEQ is not everything is clearly measurable. What about culture and climate within the organization? Those are not necessarily tangible elements that you can measure. They are very, very much perception based. But I'm definitely an advocate of the fact that you don't, or you can't manage what you don't measure. So we want to be able to measure as much as we can, analyze and evaluate within the system so that we can take a step back and make a continual improvement within the business. Now, the way that I would generally look at evolving or implementing this particular standard is either from my risk assessments or my objectives, various different aspects of the system. I would then identify key performance areas and key performance indicators that I want to track. So basically, within that, I want to determine what it is, when I'm going to measure it, where I'm going to measure it, how it's going to be measured, who it's going to be done, and I'll show you a sheet that we put together from that. So basically, on the back of identifying the KPIs, we then gather the data. And again, we pull that out of Mango, and there's a variety of different eco online software solutions, from Mango to eco EHS, etc. All of that, you can gather the data. Then what we want to do is we want to visualize the data into columns and charts so that we can then start doing trend analysis and looking for the different variables that are affecting our system. So from gathering the data, we then represent it visually if we can. We then analyze the data. So we're looking for trends. Within that, we're looking at qualitative, quantitative, we're looking at leading and lagging indicators. And then once we analyze it, we want to evaluate it. What are the benchmarks that we're looking to achieve? What are the targets that we're after? And then obviously draw that through to a report. If action is required, then we can draw that through to the objectives on the back end of the performance evaluation. If not, then obviously the cycle just repeats itself. We've already defined that: gather the data, visualize, analyze, etc. So that would just be a way of attacking this. Now, general performance monitoring requirements for any of those ISO standards that we spoke about earlier. So we've got to define key performance indicators relevant to objectives. We need to use reliable and validated methods to measure performance. We need to collect and analyze data from relevant processes to assess effectiveness. We need to review performance data regularly through internal audits and management reviews, and then implement corrective and or preventive actions. Preventive actions not really part of the newer HLS standards, because preventive action is built into risk-based thinking. But anyway, it's part of that continual improvement initiative. So from all of the standards have specific focuses. So for quality, I'm going to be looking at monitoring product and service conformity. I'm monitoring customer satisfaction, feedback trends. I'm tracking supplier performance, delivery time, defect rates, measuring process efficiency, operational effectiveness. I'm conducting internal audits and management review, and I'm tracking non-conformities and the corrective action that is taken. So some of the key metrics for quality that would be tracking: product service defect rates, customer complaints, customer satisfaction, process cycle time efficiency, and supplier quality rates will be some of the things that we track. From an environmental performance perspective, this again will be linked into our environmental aspects and impacts. We would want to look at our resource consumption, energy, water, raw materials, and etc. And this again links very nicely into the Eco Online ESG software, which helps organizations establish exactly what the greenhouse gas emissions for their scope 1, 2, and 3 categories. And then measuring waste pollution levels, tracking your carbon footprint, again speaking into that greenhouse gas and ESG requirements. Assessing compliance with environmental laws. Now, if you've been issued with a permit, you're going to have permit conditions that you have to adhere to. So obviously you want to be able to then track the data against what the permit conditions are. Conducting environmental impact assessments, etc. So some of the key metrics for environmental: energy, water, waste, emissions, and environmental compliance status. So for 45,001 for health and safety, some of the things that we would want to track are incidents, near misses, and our injury rates, compliance to PPE as an example, effectiveness of controls relative to hazards and risks, monitoring training completion, conduct regular workplace inspections and safety audits, and then review and improve emergency preparedness. So there's a whole lot of key metrics there: your LTIFR, or lost time injury frequency rate, total recordable incidents, compliance, outcomes of inspections, etc. So earlier we spoke about identifying some of those KPIs and then identifying the what, the when, the where, the how, the who. So this is generally something that we develop, and then we plug this into the event management module in Mango. And basically what it does is it identifies what it is that we want to measure, the general characteristic, what are we going to trend it against, who collects the data, how do we analyze the data, how do we represent the data, etc. And we plug all of that into Mango, and it will then remind the responsible persons of exactly what they have to do when gathering, representing the data for the management review. So here I'm going to jump in, I'm going to look at the different clauses, and I'm going to demonstrate some of the reports that can be pulled out of the different software solutions that we offer so that you can perform an effective management review. So when it comes to clause 4, organizational context, what we do is we build the review of our internal and external issues and needs and expectations and scope, etc. We review the accuracy of that. So every quarter, we've got an event to trigger the review of internal and external issues, and then also a quarterly review of interested and affected parties. So again, the event management module will send out those reminders to the respective people, and they can then sign off the events. We're then able to pull a report out and demonstrate that we're reviewing that on a quarterly basis. Now, let's say there is we have identified there's a change in internal and external issues and the needs and expectations of interested parties. We can then track that against the management of change issues that are logged within the system. If you have a look at clause 5, we do a similar thing where we want to track the level of leadership commitment. Now, again, one of those things, like what Peter Drucker said, is that we can't manage what we don't measure. And we want to measure as much as we can. Now, obviously, some of these things can be quite difficult to report on because some of them are a bit subjective. But again, we've got a quarterly review of policy communications and objectives and resource reviews and assessments of competency, so that our management can clearly demonstrate that, as per the requirements of clause 5.1, that they can clearly demonstrate that they are committed to the system by particular outcomes. And again, if we have identified any issues related to those commitment requirements, we can then track them against changes that are logged within the system. Clause 6 is a great area within any of the systems because we've got very comprehensive risk assessment modules within Mango and also Eco EHS, where we can obviously input all the hazards and risks, etc. We can then export that information and create risk profiles like this. One of the reasons that I like a risk profile like this is it allows me to very clearly demonstrate to employees what some of the most significant risks are, because you might have a risk within a department of significance or a risk that repeats itself many, many times throughout the organization. And just by virtue of the fact that that activity, albeit a moderate risk, is facilitated so many times on a daily basis within the organization, a risk which was, let's say, nominal within a department can become a significant risk at an organizational level because it's facilitated so many times. So again, this is just a report that we can pull out of Mango when we represent the data. So when we're putting in risk assessments, we then want to create an action plan. We then track that through improvements where any of the issues that any of the risks within the system that we want to take action against, we then develop action plans within the system, and then we track their effective implementation. Another report that we pull out of Mango, which is of great benefit to us, is particularly when we have a look at 45,001, is we're required to identify the effectiveness of controls in managing risks. So this is a particular report that I'm able to pull out that says these are all the accidents that happen. As a brief description. It then links those into the risks. So I'm then able to link accidents that have taken into risks that are in the risk register, and then provide a trend report to the business to show that these risks or these activities are the ones that are having the greatest amount of accidents. Therefore, there's some challenges. The controls need to be reviewed. They should have been reviewed as part of the accident investigation. But again, from a trend analysis perspective, we want to hone in on linking risks to the effectiveness of controls. Objectives and planning, again, we've got many different tools in the different SHEQ software solutions that can allow you to input and track your objectives. I really like the management of change module. So here are some different graphs that I pull out and have a chat with management about, just indicating how many MOCs have been logged, which are some of the ones that are overdue within the process, and then to look from a graphic representation perspective, how many MOCs have been logged, what type of areas or categories of changes are being driven throughout the business. So there's so many different charts that you can pull out. But again, when you go into a review with the senior management team, you want to be able to have the data represented clearly, but then also to be able to chat through the different trends that you're seeing within the business and what suggestions and action plans you have around them. So clause 7 support, when I'm looking at resources, what I would do is I would pull a report out on the availability of equipment and the maintenance requests or job cards that have been logged. I can then pull out a report, let's say from the plant and equipment module, on the different assets and asset categories within the system, and the amount of downtime and labor hours and cost per parts and which suppliers were involved in the date. So if I'm looking to pull a report out on all of the lifting equipment, all the pressurized equipment, or all of a particular product type, I can track the downtime, I can track the job cards that have been logged against them, and then ultimately the costs against those particular assets. So again, here's just a snapshot of the plant and equipment module, and within here I can track how many events they've got against them, and then just looking at the health, I can then track through to see over here that this one is overdue. So this is a report that I pull out from the HR module that is a training needs analysis and competency status. So this is just exported to Excel, and then I put in some conditional formatting that shows me everybody that's fully trained, everybody that's busy in the training process, versus all of those people where their competency status is still not competent against a particular skill set. So this then allows me to drive this information to seeing why it wasn't delivered on, what the particular training plan is. So this is a great graphic representation of those training needs that need to be fulfilled. So I can also, from the HR module, I can pull out reports on medical status and fitness for individuals, what particular medicals were done, what the status of fitness is, and dates that are overdue, and obviously drive that into an action plan. I can do the same thing with reports on PPE that are being issued to people and when it's expired and when it should be reviewed, pull out an very comprehensive understanding of the PPE deployment within your organization. So clause 8 is obviously very organization specific in terms of their operational efficiencies and production and non-conformity rates against production. But here, what I'm going to do is just jump into the supplier evaluation. So again, here, just a quick snapshot of pulling out from the external providers or the suppliers and contractors. Here I can see which contractors require additional work because their status is indicating to me that they have something overdue in terms of the events that have been done. Either their assessments are overdue or they've got expired professional indemnity or workman's comp, so I can track that, and it should have already triggered through to notify them. And again, I can have a look at different assessments and audits that have been done on contractors and see who's failed the various different audits and assessments and who's pending in terms of a particular outcome, so that we can direct our focus to those, let's say, underperforming external providers. So clause 9, what we need to consider is the methods for analysis and evaluation. So organizations must use a systematic method to analyze data and evaluate performance, including trend analysis, root cause analysis, benchmarking, either against sister companies or against categories of organizations within your industry. Internal and external audits, I believe, are worth their weight in gold if done effectively within an organization, and then also management reviews. So really clause 9 on that performance evaluation piece is looking at what data that you've identified, how it's going to be gathered, how it's going to be visually represented. And then here at a meeting like this, with a presentation like this, where we're drilling down, you don't necessarily want to have a look at everything. You want to, let's say, manage by exception. So you want to hone in, one, on collectively how healthy the system is, but managed by exception by honing in on those particular areas that require attention. So again, these are just some of the KPI indicators that we'll pull out of the Mango solution, where you can track any of the KPI indicators. So let's say it's air travel that's been done by the business, or kilometers, or the amount of paper consumed, or electricity consumption, or waste to landfill, whatever it is. You can build in your own KPI indicators. Now, again, within audits, which falls into clause 9 as well, we've got the ability to create all kinds of different audits and checklists. And you can see here is my audit program manager, where we are deploying all the audits and checklists and scheduling them. Now, one of the incredible return on investment aspects that I like about the Mango software solution is the ability to pull reports out of audits or checklists that were done. So let's say hypothetically this was an area or a housekeeping inspection or a safety rep inspection that was done by all of these guys across all of these particular questions across all departments. Now, the benefit of this report is I can show trend areas or failure areas across the different inspections that were done. So let's say you've got 30, 40, or 50 sites. All of your people can log into the system. They can use exactly the same inspection. Everything is captured into there. We can then pull this report out and demonstrate very, very clearly to you that all of the inspections are or are not being done across those 30 particular sites. And again, what the data is in terms of those particular inspections, and that can be done across anything that you create. So I really like this report that can be pulled out. And then with events, so this is similar to kind of roles and responsibilities within the ISO standard, where we're taking different aspects of the management system and allocating it to people for a fixed time frame of what they have to do. So here we can track all the different events within your organization and the fact that they're being signed off, I can then pull more detailed reports on events that aren't being signed off on time. So if you've got basically 1,000 things that need to be done on your site, this gives you the ability to track whether things are being done on time, who's not doing it on time, deviations that are noted against those different events as well. So clause 10, improvements, really tracks into a lot of the workflows that are built into the product. So again, here I've just pulled a report out on, let's say, OSH accidents and incidents. So from a high level, there are 68 that have been logged in, 3 that are overdue. And if I had to drill down into those 3, it would then show me that these are the ones that are overdue. I've got to get hold of these guys and just find out what's going on. So again, I can track the health or the status of the accidents and incidents, and then I can also take a deep dive into the data in terms of the categories, the trends, the body parts, etc. We can do exactly the same for environmental incidents, your improvements, and that can be related to your quality, non-conformities, your audit outcomes, your external provider evaluations. Anything can be logged into here and structured into the workflow. And it just gives you a really great graphic representation to go into the management review, chat through the details and the trends that you're seeing. And again, make sure that you're going into the management review armed with suggestions and recommendations to correct the particular issues. There's also a workflow for tracking security incidents as well as food safety incidents. The different software products also have API integration for any of those people that are interested in it. And it just gives you the ability to export data from Mango Eco EHS into any of the business analytical tools, be it Microsoft Power BI, Zoho Analytics, etc. There's, it's just so much that you can do in terms of the API integration of the specific things that you might want to have a look at. And this is care of one of the other Mango partners from John Watt from Manycaps Consulting in New Zealand. So again, John, thanks very much for this graphic. It really powerfully demonstrates all the different API integration aspects that you can benefit from using a software solution. So again, that brings us to the end of this Mango Masterclass. I trust that you have enjoyed it. Just to do a quick recap, we started off in Mango, just providing a high-level overview of the how you can track performance within your system and really what the benefit of using a software solution is. There you've got your landing page and your dashboard that shows you as an individual what you need to be aware of. You can then customize those charts so you can track the performance evaluation issues that you have a specific responsibility for. There's a high-level executive chart. There's also a summary of the health of the system and then the different workflows. And then within each of the modules, you can drill down into either a charting function or a report writer. And in the second part of the session, we just put together like a management review presentation where we pulled all of that performance data out of the system that we've identified, put together some form of graphic representation so that we can chat with management and just say, in terms of the investment that you've made, in terms of health, safety, environmental, quality, food safety, information security, business continuity, this is the effectiveness of your system in managing the risks and ensuring continual improvement. So I look forward to engaging with anybody who's got some questions about how we can assist you in drawing the best value out of Mango.